In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Well, today we offer the Mass in honor of the mystery of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And we know, the feast reminds us of this mystery, that she was conceived without the stain of original sin. Now, with this mystery of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary, there is one single thing that we need to keep in mind, and that is that grace is everything. Grace is everything. And I don't know if you really value grace as you should, because the thing here is that we are nothing without it. We cannot do anything good without sanctifying grace. And in order for us to understand the value of it, God preserved the Blessed Virgin Mary of sin, so that we might take her as our model when it comes to preserving sanctifying grace. Now, why is it or what is the main obstacle for us to value grace as it is? Well, because we are constantly putting in front of everything else, in front of everything that is valuable, we are constantly putting first everything that has to do with our self-love. So, most of the things that we do during the week, things that we value, things that we have, we do them, we have them, because we look at ourselves first, and not upon grace. So the main obstacle for the preservation or perseverance in sanctifying grace is the love that we have for ourselves. That we have the tendency to see everything through self-love. Whatever is convenient for us, that's what we do, that's what we value. In that regard, we are simply following whatever the culture in which we live follows. And so, since we do not value grace as we should, we lose it very easily. And sometimes without noticing it. So, because we have, our own human tendency to only look upon ourselves and consider everything in terms of ourselves. And secondly, besides concupiscence, we have temptations from the world, from the flesh, and from the evil one, that we end up believing that it is simply impossible to persevere in sanctifying grace. Now, there is nothing extraordinary that we need to do in order to persevere in sanctifying grace. All we need to do is to be able to be faithful to our resolutions, be faithful to God or to grace in small matters. So we might, be so concerned or, be afraid of committing serious sins, but we never consider small ones. So, and the devil is so interested that we commit small sins, not big ones. He knows that if we consent to a small thing, sooner or later, we are going to end up consenting in greater ways. So, if you remember the case with Judas, first thing was that the devil created this desire in Judas for money. At the beginning, it must have been something so innocent. See? But he didn't deal with it. So later on, he, created the desire in Judas to steal money from the other disciples. Then after stealing money, he criticized our Lord. After criticizing our Lord, then he sold Christ. After selling him, he takes his own life and plunges his own soul into hell. That's the same process and that's the same plan that the devil is constantly putting together for each one of us. Infidelity in small matters. See, you don't have to. You would be surprised to know for what things, small ones, is it that many people go into hell. See, so you don't have to do, serious things. The door or the first step will always be something, that you would consider of not being important. So if we take our Blessed Mother Mary as a model when it comes to persevering in grace and growing in grace, then we need to see what is it that she did. The first thing she did was to simply to stay away from the world as much as possible. The house of her parents was for her the dearest place in the entire world. Elsewhere, she was never found, unless called by obedience or charity or need. So, when Jesus began his public life, the Blessed Virgin Mary lived in complete solitude. And after the ascension of our Lord, the rest of her days were spent in entire seclusion from the world. Because in order for us to commit sin, to fall into sin, we only need two things: our own concupiscence and education. That's all we need. And you find those two things all the time, everywhere. So if you want to persevere or to preserve the grace of God, you must take Blessed Mother Mary as your model and live like her, live a simple, silent life. Because piety and virtue thrive only in the shade of solitude and silence. Secondly, the Blessed Virgin Mary performed all her domestic duties with the greatest zeal and diligence. So, with this we understand that a man who works diligently closes the entrance of his heart to the devil. In earnest occupation, every passion is silent. So, work banishes sinful thoughts, extinguishes the fire of concupiscence, bridles the dissipation of the senses, and keeps the mind in good resolutions. On the contrary, idleness is the fruitful source of every sin. That was the second thing that our Blessed Mother Mary practiced. And the last one, we know that Mary spent, hours and hours in prayer and meditation. So we know that as long as we live in this world, we must endure temptations. At one time, coming from the evil one, from the world, or from our own concupiscence, which entices us to sin. Now, it is certain that we cannot overcome these temptations and continue to withstand them by our own strength. We need God's grace. And it is equally certain that God gives us the first graces to do good without prayer. But there are other graces that we need, which we cannot obtain unless we ask for them. So we must pray if we wish to overcome temptations and to remain faithful to God. So make use of these means that you may persevere in virtue and persevere in grace. Such is the will of God. Blessed are you if in such a way you imitate the Blessed Virgin Mary and not only preserve grace, but also increase it by corresponding to it. God will reward you as his good and faithful servants with the joys of heaven. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the